Hi everyone, this is my first YouTube video, so don't make fun of me too much. Today I wanted to talk about OCD and what OCD has been like for my life, and maybe hopefully help some people out there that have OCD, or some people that know family or friends that have OCD. I first got OCD in my early 20s. I had a child that was about a year old, and when I first started noticing my OCD. I have OCD with food, OCD with medicine, OCD with my cigarettes. I have harm OCD, and I have checking OCD. And I have like reoccurring thoughts in my brain that play over and over again, and mostly that's about death. So when it first started out, it was mainly focused on just my just cigarettes and food. So like with cigarettes, what I would do is I would pull a few cigarettes out of the pack at a time. I would look at the cigarettes. Sometimes cigarettes have like little yellow stains on them, which people that smoke, you may never notice that because you probably don't inspect your cigarettes. But anyways, I would also look at the tip of the tobacco in the cigarette, because sometimes it looks kind of weird and funky. And I would choose my cigarette according to how it looked. And also if it felt right. If it didn't feel right, even though I thought it looked good, but then, oh no, it didn't feel right, no, putting it back in the pack, starting all over again. Sometimes I'd have to search. I would pull out several cigarettes, or sometimes I'd rip the whole top open and look at all of them. And then sometimes it would be like none of them felt right. And so I would just say, screw it, F it, pull out a cigarette and smoke it, because I was so mad and so frustrated with OCD. And basically it's kind of how you get anything done with OCD. You just got to get pissed off at it. With the food thing, like the food, I would go to the grocery store. If I was buying fruits or vegetables, I would have to look at them and make sure that there were no holes or punctures or bruises or anything like that. Anything that looked suspicious or odd. Cans, box stuff. When it first started out, I would just take the one that felt right. That developed into never taking the first one. It always had to be the second one or the one behind that. Plus, it also had to feel right. Then it didn't matter if it was the second one or third one. It had to feel right. So sometimes I would be searching through the whole entire row of whatever it was. Say if I was looking at corn, I would be looking through everything. This whole time while you're doing stuff like this, you feel anxious. You feel like if you don't get it right, something bad is going to occur. And that's why you do it, because of that feeling of fear and frustration. So, you know, once I would get a can, then it was safe. If I felt like it was right, it was safe, I could take it home, I could eat it. Now, let's say I get pissed off and frustrated, and you know, no cans feeling right, and I just say, screw it, and I take one. Well, when I go home, I know that I said, screw it, and I took one, and so I'm totally apprehensive about cooking that can of food, and I keep trying to reassure myself, you know, nothing's wrong with it, it's okay, blah, 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 and usually, eventually, I would end up taking a few bites. The anxiety would get so overwhelming that there was something wrong with this can of food, and I would end up just throwing it away and never eating it. And so OCD has cost me a lot of money. Sorry, my dog is crazy, but she's cute and I love her. Anyways, so, you know, it's kind of like when I would get an OCD thing, it would start out mild and then it would progress into being, you know, the most anxiety and stress I could handle. Then, I don't know, that went on for several years. I still had no idea what was wrong with me. I knew that the thoughts I was having was not normal, that other people didn't think this way, that, you know, that it just was not, that it was just unrealistic, that the thoughts were not real. Also, you know, while being at the grocery store and searching through those cans, you've got people all around you. And so not only are you focused on trying to get the right food, so that you can feel okay inside, you're also focused on these people around you, not wanting them to be staring at you or thinking that you're weird or strange or crazy, and that just makes your anxiety level like just so much more to deal with at the moment. And so it leads to a lot of frustration. Like my daughter just refuses to go to the grocery store with me because it would take so long in the grocery store, like hours in the grocery store, because I'm trying to get it right. You know, so that again, that went on for several years. My grandparents died in 2007. Both of them died in December, 13 days apart. It was a really hard, really stressful time. My mother died when I was a child. And so my grandparents were, you know, my link to her. I was really close with them. They were really loving, and their death absolutely devastated me. I don't know how I went on at the time. I really don't. I mean, I made it through. I'm glad I made it through. But, you know, I moved. During that time, I moved away from all of my family, everyone I knew, 300 miles away, with this person. You know, we were in love. But anyways, so that relationship was extremely stressful. It was, he was emotionally abusive. He always tried to make me feel like I was nothing, that I was worthless, that everything that I thought or believed in or felt or did was wrong. You know, and he wasn't like that when we were here. It was just like when we got there where we moved to, it slowly started happening. And so as that slowly started happening, I was like in a confused state about who this person was. Like I didn't really know who this person was, and where did this person go, like, that I knew. And so while I was there, my OCD got really bad. I was living in an apartment alone with my child, and he was living somewhere else. We weren't living together. And in that apartment, my OCD really started to take off. This is where the checking came in. Well, I had some checking before, but it was before the checking was when I would come into my house at night. I would walk through my entire house and look in every room, every closet, under all the beds, in the cabinets. I would do that one time and I would be satisfied. And, but, you know, here, when I moved in this new situation, one time was no longer the case. I would, and also the stove started being involved. I would check the stove, any appliance that was plugged in, I would check the plug and make sure that nothing could get on it, catch a fire, you know. I would check all the windows, all the doors, in the closets, under the beds, in the sink cabinets, anything that was big enough for a person to fit in, I checked it to make sure no one was in there. And I remember one night I was standing in front of the door, and it was like I came to, and I was like, how long have I even been standing here? Like, I had no idea how long I had been standing in front of that front door, staring at the lock, trying to reassure myself that that lock was locked. I could see the lock. I could see that it was turned in the position that it was supposed to be turned in to be locked. And yet, I couldn't make myself believe that that door was locked. And, it makes you not feel safe. It makes you feel just extremely fearful that something bad is going to happen to you, or to someone that, or, the people around you that you love. And that's why you do all these things, because of the fear that it creates in you. And, it wasn't long after that. See, it had already been, like maybe 9 years that I had been living with this and had no clue what I had. And I was watching TV, and TLC finally did this episode on people with OCD. And so I was watching these episodes, and I was like, oh my God, I have OCD. Having OCD freaking sucks. I don't wish OCD on anyone. But I was so glad to actually finally know, after all those years, what was wrong with me, what I had. And so, at that point, now I know what's wrong with me, but I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to get better. I don't know how to stop doing what I'm doing. So, I'm still in this bad relationship. The relationship's getting worse and worse. The stress is getting higher and higher. So then I started having mental images. Mental images are just unwanted thoughts that just pop into your brain, and you can clearly see the image, and it's scary images. Like mine would be just bloody and grotesque and scary, and it would be images that I've never even seen before. And I am not a person that watches scary movies or horror movies or anything like that. So for these images to be popping into my head, my brain is like manifesting these images, and I don't even know how they got there. No idea, because I don't watch these things in order, so I didn't get them from movies or from TV or whatever. So there were the mental images. Then the worst OCD came along, which was the harm OCD. Now keep in mind, I still had OCD with my cigarettes I'm dealing with, OCD with all the food I'm dealing with, OCD with checking everything, OCD with the mental images. Now here comes the harm OCD. The harm OCD is the worst OCD ever. I mean, for me, you may have different OCD things that's the worst for you. But my harm OCD was mostly related to my daughter. I feared that I had harmed my daughter, or mostly when I was putting her to bed at night. Okay, here's what would happen. We used to have a really good routine of her going to bed. At a certain time, she knew that she needed to go do her things and get in the bed. And I would go tuck her in and give her a kiss and tell her good night and I love you. Well, during I'm taking her into the bedroom, tucking her in and kissing her, I started having these thoughts when I would leave. Did you do something to her? Sorry, my dog again. And so it would be even worse if I saw something as I was going into the room that could potentially harm her. Like if there was a belt laying on the floor, or if there was, sometimes she would have a jump rope laying on the floor, because you can be strangled with a belt, or a jump rope, or the pillow even, smothering with the pillow. I would kiss her goodnight, and as I was walking out of the room, I'd have this dreaded, overwhelming feeling. Did you do something? It's like your brain tricks you and makes you think that you're not remembering events exactly like they happened, or that you did something but you blocked that memory out of your brain, and so you don't know that you actually did it. And so then you would have to check. So the obsession was, did I do something to my daughter? And the compulsion was me checking her. So I would have to check her and make sure that she was okay and that I had not done anything to her. I would also make sure that there was nothing around her bed that could hurt her. Like, she always wanted this canopy thing that she had. It was a Tinkerbell canopy thing that you would hang over the bed, and I would never let her hang that up, because I always thought that what if that canopy falls down and the push pin that it's in pokes her, or the thing smothers her, or anything like that. So I would never let her have that over her bed. That harm OCD progressed. I would sit and I would stare. I would stare and stare and stare. I would get close to her. I'd stare to try to make sure she was breathing. I'd get close to her so I could hear that she was breathing. I would look at her chest to make sure it was rising up. It was like I was doing all these things to convince myself that she was okay. I'm actually surprised that I'm able to talk about this part of the OCD without crying. That's my most hated OCD, like I said, and the reason why I hate it the most is because I always tell my daughter, I love you the most of anyone on this earth. And I do. I love her the most of anyone on the earth, and if anything were to ever happen to her, I would surely die. And finally, later on, once I finally got help from my therapist, I was, telling my therapist how horrible it makes me feel. It makes me feel like I'm a horrible, vile person to have these thoughts about my child. And my therapist told me that OCD attaches itself to the things that mean the most to you in your life. And if it didn't attach itself to the things that mean the most to you, then you wouldn't be obsessed about it. You wouldn't care about it. And so you wouldn't have OCD on that particular thing, which makes complete sense. So once he told me that, I was able to let go of all of those horrible feelings I was feeling about myself. And I knew that I did not want to harm my child, that I was never going to harm my child, and that it was just the OCD thoughts. That's a very personal thing to share, because people will judge me about having those thoughts about my daughter, but it was never having thoughts that I wanted to actually do something. It was just having thoughts of, did I do something? Did you do something? Because that was laying there. Did you go crazy for a moment and do something? You hear about mothers all the time hurting their children, and they're hurting their children for, it's not OCD that they have. They're not having OCD thoughts. Those are completely different thoughts that they're having. The people that actually carry out. If you do research on OCD, people that have OCD are not, especially the harm OCD, they don't harm people. They just have these thoughts that, what if I did harm someone? What if? And I found what if was a big word in OCD, because you're like, if I eat this piece of food, what if it was poisoned? What's it going to do to me? Another thing that happened with the food is that then I would, if I didn't spit it out or throw it away, like sometimes I'd be really freaking hungry. I would just want to eat. So I would let my daughter eat first, and sometimes I would, because I knew there was nothing wrong with the food, but it was reassurance that if my daughter ate the food, or anyone else that was with us ate the food and they were all right, then I could eat it and I would be all right. I would also feed food to my dog. If my dog's okay, then I'm going to be okay. I know that sounds stupid. It is completely stupid. But, that's just the way OCD is. As far as the death thoughts went, when I was in that relationship, the death thoughts they became so consuming. They pretty much consumed my brain from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. Especially anytime I was alone, like if I would go outside of work, go down to my car, smoke a cigarette, the whole time I'm smoking that cigarette, I'm thinking of death. I'm thinking that I have cancer and I'm not even going to make it to the end of this year. That I'm going to die, that I have some kind of terminal illness and nobody's going to be able to do anything about it. I'm going to be taken away from my daughter. She's going to have to live without me and I'm going to die. Now, maybe that worry came from me losing my mom at such a young age. I was only like 14 months old. She died in a car wreck, and so I never knew her. So there's always been issues with not knowing my mother. And so, I had a daughter. I was young. I was near the age of when my mother died, and so I think maybe that brought on the fear of death for me. And so the OCD just kept running that fear in my brain all day long, just all day long, over and over and over again. And, I walked around with a sad look on my face all the time. I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and it was horrible. Everybody's always like, smile, smile. I'm like, I don't want to smile. I was so tired because of all of this crap in my head that I had no room for anything else. I had no room for smiling. I didn't want to carry on conversations with people. Even my own daughter, like when she would come up to me and she would be talking to me, I couldn't even concentrate on anything that she was telling me because OCD had consumed my mind so much that I couldn't take in any more information. That was horrible also because, I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the cute things that children say. I'm missing out on my daughter's day. I'm missing out on what's bothering her, what she needs, because OCD is consuming all of my time. When it first started, it was just, rotated or it was just around food and just during those times. And then, as it progressed and progressed and progressed, it was from the time I woke up till the time I went to sleep. So it had consumed my whole day. So, in this relationship, this horrible relationship I was in, I started, I've always been kind of a teeth grinder. I grind my teeth at night while I'm asleep. But the stress of that relationship had made me really started clenching and grinding my teeth while I was asleep. I would do it so bad that the tendons, I could feel my gums. When I would wake up in the morning, I could feel that I had pressed my mouth together so tight at night. I could feel the top part of my gum and the bottom part of my gums touching each other when I would wake up in the morning. That's how clenched I had my jaws while I was asleep. And I would grind my teeth so hard I would wake myself up with the noise. And the tendons and the jaw joints started hurting so bad that I couldn't eat anymore. I could drink liquid, but I could not chew because the pain was so horrible. And during that time, I had to take some time off work. This whole time I've worked too, because I have to provide for me and my child, and I have to work. And so this whole time I have worked and worked and worked, and sometimes I have really hated going to work. I just wanted to crawl under my covers and just disappear and not exist anymore. But so I'm thankful that I have my child. Otherwise, I may not have made it. But so at that point, I actually did break down. I actually did go to a mental health facility. And I told them what was going on, and the intake person, she's here at a mental health facility, and I'm telling her what's going on, and I know I have OCD because of a show that I've watched, but she has no clue what OCD is like. She has no clue what OCD is, and she just thinks I'm crazy, and I can tell that she thinks I'm crazy because of how she's looking at me and reacting to me. And, they were going to put me in this program from 8 to 12 every day, and I started thinking, they don't know what OCD is. They're just putting me in this program with a lot of other different people and that don't even have the same problem that I have. And so I ended up not going. Sorry, there's a fly in here. I ended up not going, and I found this person that a therapist that specializes with OCD, and this person helped me tremendously. They got me into doing cognitive behavioral therapy. I am an impatient person, and I think that is something good I had on my side. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a way to kind of retrain your brain, retrain how your brain is thinking. And so basically, let's take my cigarettes for instance. Getting a cigarette, instead of me pulling out several cigarettes and looking at them, I don't do that. Take one cigarette, pull it out, smoke it. Now that's what everybody else does that smokes. But for me, taking that one cigarette out and smoking it is hard. So when I first started doing it, the whole time, so I'm like, okay, the first time it was easy. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I pull out the cigarette and I'm smoking it. I was like, yeah, all right. Second time, third time, fourth time, the anxiety, then you start thinking about it. You're like, the whole time you're smoking the cigarette, you're anxious. You're wondering if something's going to happen to you. Your anxiety is going up. You're smoking the cigarette, and you're done with the cigarette, and then even after you're done with the cigarette, the anxiety still continues until finally you just forget about it. Finally, or you convince yourself, okay, it's been long enough, nothing happened to me, so that cigarette must have been okay. So I started out with my pack of cigarettes. I started not doing my compulsion, not doing the searching through. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. So all day long, what my therapist recommended was just to start with one thing. Once I got comfortable with one thing and didn't have a kind of like OCD with that thing anymore, then move on to another thing. Well, again, I'm impatient. So I said, no, this is what I'm going to do. Anything that I come across that I'm having OCD with, I am not going to do my compulsion. So, grabbing a drink off the shelf, food that I was preparing, anything, I did not do my compulsion. I would look at it, and I'd say, you're just going to grab one, you're going to go. And then you're going to drink it. Well, so I started doing that with everything. And, again, the whole time you're doing it, you're anxious, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You're stressed out. You're worried that something bad's going to happen because you're not giving in. You're not doing your compulsion. But for me, just flat out doing, attacking my OCD head on, at that time I was pissed at it. I was so pissed at OCD. I was so pissed that it was consuming my life and consuming my brain and making me feel fearful, because I am not a fearful person. I'm a strong person. I've never been afraid of anything. Like, growing up, everything I've been through, never been afraid. Ever. People, out on the street, whatever, never afraid of them, except until OCD. And so, you know, I'm mad as hell. And so I started attacking OCD. Well, it's great. It's great. And so then I'm living good. Everything's great. I still, when I would come to something that I had OCD with, it would still be there, but then I would be able to get through it. Well, I'm still in this stressful relationship. Okay? Still in it. And it continued to get worse and worse and worse. And one night I had gone to Wendy's and I got myself a baked potato and some other, you know, my daughter and him, I had got them some stuff, whatever. I opened the baked potato and I had extreme OCD with this baked potato. I could not eat this baked potato. And so, well, let me go back. So, you know, I had beat the whole OCD thing. Well, this is what I was doing with my daughter. Instead of checking my daughter, I had changed my compulsion, because this is what I did. When she would be in her room, I would go back to my room, I would get in the bed, and then I would yell out to her, "Good night, I love you," so that I could hear her response and know that she was safe. And I would only allow myself to do it once. And then I would sit there in bed and not get back up. So then the OCD would start saying, "Did you get up? Did you get up and now you don't remember that you got up? Did you get up and go do anything?" And so sometimes I would sit there in fear of that I still had done something. And so that OCD was still kind of going on. And so then the OCD started to progress again. So now we're back to the baked potato. Well, no, hold on. I also started having, I've also had OCD with medicine. I didn't take any medicine for probably 5 years. Even including like over-the-counter medicine. The only thing I would take was Advil and Tums. Back in 2006-07, I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which, if you can tell here, my thyroid became very enlarged to the point to where I could hardly breathe, and they were trying to put me on some medicine for that, just a steroid. And, you know, because I had heard that sometimes steroids can make people angry and do things that they wouldn't normally do, I refused to take the steroid. I was so sick. I lost so much weight during that time. And I don't know how I got through that. I guess that God had mercy on me and got me through that. Because I didn't take any medication for it at all. And actually my goiter has actually shrunk and is smaller now than it has been ever. I mean, it was huge. You could see my throat really protruding. Anyway, so we're back to the baked potato. I had reflux really bad, so I was on medication for reflux. So, of course, I had to search through my medication for the reflux like I would search through the cigarettes to find the right one, the one that was okay. I even went farther with it because I had they were capsules and I couldn't swallow them well, and so then I would fear that they would get stuck in my throat, I would choke and I would die. And so I would open them up, dump the little capsule things out into applesauce. I would look at it, I would make sure it looked the same, and then I would finally eat it. But some nights I couldn't do it. Some nights I would search through that thing, the whole bottle, and I couldn't find one to take. I would get really anxious and I would not be able to take one. I would get frustrated. The people around me, he would see that I was frustrated, and he would get frustrated and mad at me. So please, please don't get frustrated and mad at anyone that you know that has OCD, because they know it's unrealistic. They know they shouldn't be feeling this way, but the way they're feeling inside that you can't see, you can't feel, it's horrible. It's horrible to be inside of them, to be inside of the brain of when OCD is attacking you, and just your whole body, you just feel attacked, you feel in fear, and you feel anxious. So just, try to be as supportive as you can. If you are, yeah, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get angry and mad and upset, and you're going to wish that this person's not going through this, and you're going to think, why are they going through this? Why don't they just stop? Just, it's not okay, that what they're thinking is not real. Well, yeah, they do too, but you're not overwhelmed with this feeling of fear, so that's why they're continuing to do it, and that's why you don't do it. So I was frustrated with my medicine that night, and then I sit down to eat this potato, and I can't. I feel like there's something wrong with it. And, at this point, I'm so stressed out with my relationship, my personal life. I'm so stressed out with this OCD again, that I just couldn't take it. And I get in an argument with the person I was with, and, because I wanted them to help me. I wanted them to make me feel okay, or just be supportive, or just give me a hug and just say, I love you, I'm sorry you're going through this, I just wanted them to do something, just to reach out to me, and they didn't. They refused, and they got mad at me and angry at me, and that was the turning point. And I ran into my room and I started this blog. I just started writing. I just started writing how I felt, and I came to the conclusion that this person doesn't get me. They're never going to get me. They're always going to want me to be different. And then I'm never going to be who they want. And so at that point, I knew that the relationship was done. And I packed up my clothes, and a few nights later, they send me a text, sitting in another room, send me a text about some money I had spent, which was only $20. $20, okay? And so, I'm like, okay, this is it. I've got to go, or I'm just going to beat the crap out of this person. So I pack up my clothes, my daughter some clothes, and I leave, and I go to my best friend's house. And, while I'm there, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to call. He's going to text me at least. He's going to see if I'm okay. No, never does. So, and the whole time I was kind of okay with that. Although I was surprised that he didn't. When I finally did, 2 days later, and keep in mind, I left at like 9:30 that night, and I drove for about 8 hours to my friend's house. So I didn't get to my friend's house until very late. He had no idea where I was going, where I was at, anything. He never called me, never tried to find out if I was okay. His first message was, I have packed all my stuff up and moved out. So I was just pissed. I was like, what the hell? Like, you're not even going to talk to me about this? You're not even concerned enough about me or love me enough to find out if I'm okay or alive before you send me a text that you've moved out? So, by that time I'm just angry. Just angry. So, I finished the weekend out at my friend's house, and I drive back home, and I go in and realize that he has taken whatever he wanted to take out of the house. He didn't take just only his stuff. He took stuff that we got while we were together. And then he thought that, and he left me with what he thought I should be left with. Which was great, because it fueled me. It made me get over my OCD. Well, number one, I didn't have that stress level anymore. Number two, I'm pissed off. And a good motivator is being pissed off. And so before that point, my fear of when I would check the house, that fear had gotten so strong that if no one was home, I couldn't even go into the house anymore. I'd have to sit outside in my car until someone got home because I was too afraid to even start my search. So that fear just disappeared immediately because you know why? I was on my own. It was me and my daughter again, and I had to be the rock. I had to get over this. I was shocked into it. And sometimes that is a great thing for OCD, is to just, bam, take it all in all at once and get it done. And that's what I did. I found things to make me safe. I started back with the cognitive behavioral therapy after that because I knew what to do. I knew that basically you just don't give into your compulsions. You have the thought of you have the OCD thought, and then you don't give into the compulsion. You're going to get anxious. You're going to feel like the whole world could end, or that something bad's going to happen to you or some loved one. But you know what? If you wait long enough, that feeling will go away, and then you will feel fine and normal again. So I started doing that. So now what I do is that when I'm home alone at night, I allow myself to walk through my house one time and look. I'm not allowed to do it any more than once, and I only do it if I'm alone. Most of the time I'm not alone, so it's only when I'm alone. Another thing is just feeling safe. So, a home alarm system, a gun, and that just makes you feel, it takes the fear out of a surprise happening. So, with a home alarm system, or, you have a warning, a gun, you have a way to protect yourself. So that keeps me from searching my whole home. With the cigarette thing, my cigarette thing I hold on to. Like, sometimes when I'm stressed out, I'll do the whole search through the cigarette thing. But other times I'll say, F it, take a cigarette and smoke it. When I'm at the grocery store now, sometimes I don't get the OCD thought, but sometimes there it is, and I have to say, no, you're not going to feed into this, you're not going to do this, you're not going to start searching through all this crap, you're just going to grab one and you're going to go. And when you get home, you're going to eat it. You're not going to spit it out, you're not going to throw it away. So, basically, one part of your brain has to eventually start being stronger than that OCD part of your brain, and you have to take yourself back over. It's like a war between right and left brain. It's probably not right and left brain, but whatever. You know what I'm saying. So as far as the harm OCD, that has gone away. I don't think about, and my daughter knows about this. I have told her about this, and she's okay with it. She says, Mom, I know that you would never hurt me, and I know it's just your OCD, and she's sorry that I have this OCD because she knows how much I love her. But I don't have that anymore, which is freaking fantastic. The scary thoughts and images, I have had maybe one or two of those in the last year and a half. So that's pretty much gone. I don't know, what else do I do? My medicine, okay. So now I'm taking vitamin D3 because I had no vitamin D in my body. I'm taking vitamin B complex. I'm taking sertraline or Zoloft, and I am taking which I started taking the Zoloft because I got really depressed about 4 months ago. And so I started the Zoloft because I just didn't want to go to work anymore. I didn't want to do anything anymore because I was depressed. I was still living far away from my family. After that whole breakup thing, I was still living there on my own. And I was missing my family, just missing everyone. And so I was really depressed. So I started the Zoloft for that, which is supposed to help OCD too. I don't know if it does for me, because I still have kind of the same things. I still have the, you know, when I come into contact with something that I normally have OCD with, I still hesitate a little bit. And then I also take omeprazole for my acid reflux. So there are 4 medications that I'm taking. Sometimes, occasionally, I'll get into that dumping a few out and searching through, but I will not, like, if I feed into it, then it gets worse. If I find myself that a couple of nights I'll dump them out and look through it, like by that 3rd night or whatever, it's gotten really bad, and my anxiety is real bad while doing it, and I almost can't take a pill. So, you know, it's like you got to snap out of it. Well, I didn't intend for this video to be this long, but I just want you to know that there's hope for you if you have OCD. Do what you can do. Go seek help. Go seek someone that actually works with OCD. I was with my first therapist. She didn't actually do a lot with OCD. She did kind of confirm that I was having OCD, but she didn't really help me in that department. So, you know, I suggest that you get someone that actually does OCD and is really familiar with it. And be strong, and you can make it through it. And talk to yourself. Tell yourself that, you know, remind yourself who you are, and that this OCD is consuming you, and that you're kicking it out, of your brain, and you know, you'll make it. When I take my medicine, when I open my cabinet and I look at my medicine, I'm like, wow, you know, wow. A year ago, this was debilitating to me. A year ago, taking just 1 pill was debilitating to me, and oh my God, mixing more than 1 pill at a time, oh my God. Now I can take like 4 pills, be okay with it. So, you know, it's just fantastic. But anyway, here's my little dog again. She's been chewing on my fingers. She's so cute. And, well, that's it. So if you have someone that you love with OCD, or if you have OCD, you know, seek help, or help that person in the best way that you can. Alright, hope you enjoyed it. Sorry that this is like 48 minutes long, but maybe it'll help someone. Thanks. Bye.